Hello and welcome to Chasing the Dream, a YouTube channel dedicated to shining a spotlight on organizations that are doing amazing things on behalf of their employees, and also a YouTube channel that's dedicated to ideas, insights, and inspiration on how to create amazing organizational cultures. My name is Ethan Chazen. I am a New York-based organization development coach, and today, as we're in the start of the new year, I want to dedicate a video to the incoming Trump billionaire administration. So this is, I think, one of my top 5 out of 450 or some odd videos of importance. So let's dive right in with an understanding that I'm going to come at this analysis from the perspective of what can we extrapolate based on the loading up of a president's administration with the collective richest body of individuals, the Billionaires Club, in terms of potentially understanding impact to the American consumer for possibly the next 4 years. So let's begin on MSNBC. I understand that they skew a little bit to the left of the political spectrum, but I want to focus on a really exceptional summarization by Joy Reid to kick things off. This is where I'm going to go with today's video in terms of focus on what this means, this incoming administration, potentially in terms of the impact on the average American citizen. So let's go. Let's jump right in. I want to pause here because we're not just looking at this in isolation, right? There's something else that's going on. During Trump's election campaign, he constantly hammered away at the importance of tariffs as a way of imposing additional costs on foreign manufacturers bringing products into the United States. Not really sure where his mindset was. Obviously, that's a clear indication that he has no understanding of how business works in the real world. But literally, if these tariffs that are protectionist in nature to protect American companies against the threat of incoming foreign competing products, if there's a tariff on them, that's going to raise the pass-through price for consumers. That's how tariffs work. And how freaking stupid are you if you don't understand that that's how tariffs work? If somebody makes something outside the United States and you want to bring it into the United States to sell it to American consumers, a tariff is an additional fee that's placed onto the organization who's bringing those goods in. So that organization just simply says, okay, if it's going to cost me X% more, I'm going to charge my ultimate end consumer base that same X% more. So how are Americans going to come to terms the minute they start seeing the negative adverse impact of these tariffs, if they're implemented as Trump promised they would, in terms of those kitchen table topics that apparently during the campaign, Americans were saying there was the price of goods were too high under Biden's administration. Wait till you see the price across the board in nearly all industries and all products, from pharmaceuticals to food, heck, even eggs. Wait till we see the increase in price paid by the ultimate person, the consumer, for these increased tariffs. And you have a lot of these government agencies now being led by multi-billionaires. So this is really important. This is so important. Why? Because Donald Trump literally led an insurrection January 6th of 2020 as the Biden administration was coming in by spending going on 5 years of constant insidious toxic messaging around if you are part of this predominantly white male pass behind society of middle America, it's not your fault. It's not your fault at all. It's the fault of others, people of different sexual orientation, people of different lifestyles, people of different colored skin, people who were relatively new, legal immigrants to the United States who are being successful when we look to Asian and South Asian communities, for example, disproportionately successful in terms of higher education and professional degrees and positions of increasing power. The messaging that Donald Trump perfected, crafted, was to say it's other people's fault. And this is powerful right now because there was a large part of the American populace who, in this 2024 election cycle, voted for a false narrative. And they did it because of the cult of MAGA, the cult of Trump, the Republican Party basically giving up any power just to be able to follow in the coattails of his political maelstrom. But this is what the repercussions are. We're going to have to live with this. And literally, in a matter of weeks, the incoming administration is going to lead from a position of a very, very wealthy, very small percent of the American populace, leading from the perspective of course, vested interest from their perspective, securing their ridiculously obscene wealth. So let's take a look at that. Axios. Now we're going towards a little more towards the middle than MSNBC of the political reporting spectrum. Trump's billionaires are set to take government by storm. So let's take a look at who's coming in and understand where the power is. Elon Musk, 346 to $360 billion valuation at any point in time. The wealthiest of the wealthy billionaires, Vivek Ramaswamy, who's co-chair of the Department of Government Efficiency, whatever the hell that means, billionaire. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary. Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary. Linda McMahon, yes, of Vince McMahon, wife fame, leading up the WWE. She's going to be Education Secretary. Holy sweet mother of God. Doug Burgum, Interior Secretary. Stephen Witkoff, Middle East Envoy. Chris Wright, Energy Secretary. When you look at the dossiers, when you look at the CVs, the backgrounds of these individuals, this is really, really, really scary stuff. These people leading these agencies and being literally in the room with Donald J. Trump, influencing every decision. Hello, Elon Musk. It's really something that we need to take a look at. So I don't have time in this video to go down, but the link to this complete list at Axios has spent significant work culminating. You can go at it. Kelly Loeffler, David Sachs, Frank Bisignio. This is a big deal. Masood Bolos, the father-in-law of Trump's daughter, nepotism, no worries. Even Trump says he's not giving up any of the money-making enterprises while he's president this time around. And by the way, there are no guardrails. There are no guardrails left. The Republicans control both houses. This is when we say elections of consequences, this is what we're talking about. So, okay, President-elect Trump has assembled an administration. Here we go. An administration of unprecedented, mind-boggling wealth, smashing his own first-time record by billions of dollars. And why does this matter? Why does it matter? I hope you don't think my covering this is simply, I'm politically biased, even though I am a registered Democrat. It's not hyperbole to call this a government of billionaires. It is the government of billionaires, whether it acts as a government for billionaires. And that's what the argument's central kind of thesis is. That this is an administration that is going to serve one group, the less than 1% of the American population who are the super wealthiest. This is going to put in a tremendous strain on the livelihoods of the average American consumer. Big picture, besides Trump, Elon Musk and his fellow Department of Government Efficiency, Doge, head Vivek Ramaswamy. At least 11 billionaires will be serving roles in the administration. So Department of Treasury, I mentioned Scott Bessent. Commerce is Howard Lutnick. Education, Linda McMahon. The Department of the Interior, Doug Burgum. The Small Business Administration, Kelly Loeffler. Oh my God. Oh my God. This should scare people who are at all interested in human rights, but also the rights of the average American. That was the big lie told around the 2024 election cycle. The Democrats don't have your best interests if you're in middle America. Only we, the Republican Party, and the subset, the MAGA faithful, who are the apostles of Trump, only we can ensure everybody's protection against those evil Democrats. Rush Limbaugh enjoyed Reid's prior piece, mentioned it's going back to the 1980s when I grew up as a teenager. That's what Rush Limbaugh created for the Republican Party, the gift that's kept giving. Financier, Stephen Feinberg has been nominated to the number 2 position at the Pentagon. The Pentagon. Trump family in-laws, Charles Kushner, Jared's daddy, ambassador to France, and Masoud Bolos' Middle East advisor, were tapped for diplomatic roles. So they're there. They're there. And this is what I think is critically important that we start to pay attention to. I will be the first to admit it. After the election turned out the way it did, I unplugged from the media. I literally spent 2 months of just, for my own mental health, I needed to decompress. But now we need to lock and load. We need to focus on how this is going to affect the average American consumer, because it's big. So let's go to NPR. There are a lot of billionaires in Trump's coming administration. I want to read this byline by Sophie Douglas because it's all important. So the way things are going, it's looking like with that President-elect Trump's incoming cabinet and staff will quite literally be run by billionaires. Not by billionaires, not only by billionaires, but way more billionaires than your typical presidential administration. So this is Weilin Wang, the host of this NPR program. So this is called Waking Up to the Fire. And I want to just kind of walk through some of her commentary. We don't have time to go through all the nominees. Here's some of the ones that we reported. I mentioned them: Howard Lutnick, Linda McMahon, et cetera. But Weilin Wang on her show had, okay, so I want to set this up. Terrence Wallace was a guest on the program. Excuse me, I'm sorry, Steve Nelson. So I want to talk about Steve Nelson, who's a professor of political science at Northwestern University, who came on Ms. Wang's program, and he was interviewed for his thoughts on this incoming billionaire administration. So according to Steve Nelson, again, professor of political science at Northwestern, he says, we used the Forbes list, which had just over 2,000 billionaires from around the world. And so what we ended up doing is looking for evidence that of that list of the Forbes 2,000 billionaires all over the world who formerly went into politics. And he found that of the 2,000, about 11% of the people on the list had entered politics in some capacity. So it's basically 1 in 9. If you randomly took 9, you'd find 1. So he's saying he wasn't surprised that there were billionaires in the Trump administration who are coming into positions of significant power and authority, that they're interested. But there's something else that I want to point to that's really fascinating. He found that, Wang says, isn't this kind of surprising? Because why would people leave lucrative, billion-dollar enterprises that they created themselves or that they ran to go into politics? It would almost seem like a step backwards for somebody to go into the public domain. And he says, she asks, what do you make of this? And he says, it seems odd because super rich people can use other means to try and get what they want. In the political realms, they can just give a bunch of money, which most of these folks did to the Trump campaign, right? So that's important to point out. And they can try and influence the political discourse that way. So why is it that these billionaires entering Trump's administration Why are they entering politics at such a high rate? Well, one thing is that they're unconstrained. This is the key point that I wanted to share with you. They don't have to go around with their hat in their hand asking the government or the administration for funds or favorable legislation, or to turn their eye away from their malfeasance and unethical business practices. They don't have to go around and beg for that. They can just mobilize funds themselves when they're in politics, in Trump's administration. And the other thing he points to is that what he found in doing his research into billionaires across the world who went into politics, they tended to be congregated or most heavily populated in dictatorial or autocratic regimes. Think Russia, think China. So when we talk about the Trump administration being ideally set up this second go around to be the epitome of anti-democratic dictatorial regime, this is a manifestation of it. This is a manifestation of it. You know, the US Chamber of Commerce driving this boat, business driving this, billionaires driving this, because they've got the ear, their counsel, to the most powerful position in the world, President of the United States. And somebody who's already exhibited through a prior, he held the job before. He demonstrated without question an abject lack of morality and ethical construct. Pure nepotism, what was in it for him was all that was the driving consideration, which is why he, snuggled up with dictators like Xi and Kim and Putin, et cetera, et cetera. This is dangerous. And if you're an average American consumer, you should be asking yourself, how does this administration serve in any capacity to represent my interests? So now I'm going to go a little bit back to the left in terms of political coverage. I want to go a little bit back to the left. So Democrats.org, new report, Donald Trump's billionaire cabinet raises concerns about conflict of interest. How could you not? How could you not be concerned about a handful, 13 so far, billionaires, multi-billionaires, steering the course of all consideration and decision-making in the US government moving forward, starting in 2 weeks, to be about what their wants, needs, desires are? Where do you stack up? Where do I stack up? It's a rhetorical question. There's no way in which our interests as average Americans are going to be represented. And it's in every facet of the US government, because they're everywhere now. This is Project 2025. Congratulations, as I say again, elections have consequences. So let's go and take a look at this. Donald Trump is growing his special interest billionaire cabinet day by day, trying to stack his administration with loyalists. These are the people who got out the vote for him, who funded him with hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. They're going to give themselves tax handouts. Not you, them. Not you, riffraff. They're going to literally profit even more on the backs of working class families and working Americans. The American people deserve leaders who will look out for them, not an out-of-touch cabinet with ethical conflicts across the board who are only focused on their own pocketbooks. This is the point. This is the point. And I'm not hearing enough of it in the business community. It's like y'all still stuck your head in the freaking sand. And as long as it's good for you, fine. That is the absolute opposite of moral compass, of probity, of triple bottom line. You can put that bullshit on your website all you want. You can put that marketing spin about your social consciousness and social causes and social corporate responsibility. This is concerning. This is incredibly concerning. It's an out-of-touch cabinet with ethical conflicts across the board who are only focused on their own pocketbooks. So when you think about Trump's assembling this uber wealthy cabinet, so many white flags or danger signs of potential ethics conflict and violations. President-elect Donald Trump has chosen at least half a dozen billionaires and several other ultra-wealthy business leaders to serve in top administration positions. Trump's cabinet is on track to be one of the richest in modern history, on par only with the team of millionaires he assembled back in 2016. He's picked billionaires to serve as commerce secretary and education secretary. He's tapped other ultra wealthy leaders for treasury and the interior, literally every position of power in the American government. He's also offered non-cabinet positions, including NASA director and deputy of defense secretary to billionaires. How do you think this is going to play out? I can see it so clearly. This is why so many people were overwhelmed and distraught beyond, placating at the outcome of this election. Because again, elections have consequences. Throughout the transition, Elon Musk, the world's richest man, has been by Trump's side constantly, serving as first buddy and establishing the non-governmental Department of Governmental Efficiency, DOGE. Trump tapped tech investor David Sachs, who made his fortune in part through a $1.2 billion sale of his software company Yammer to Microsoft. He's going to serve as head of artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency. He's the czar. He's the czar. Trump's picks have not yet released their financial disclosures, but his 2025 cabinet is likely to be even richer than the first Trump cabinet, which had a combined net worth of $6.2 billion. Wealthy Americans who have had successful careers in business have long served in government, but watchdog groups say the high concentration of ultra-wealthy picks for roles in Trump's incoming cabinet presents distinct conflict of interest risks and could work against promises Trump, billionaire himself, made on the campaign trail. Watchdog groups are concerned about the new conflicts of interest that Trump's nominees could present. Remember Wilbur Ross? No? So many Americans have such short-term attention deficit disorder memories, but Trump's first-term Commerce Secretary, Wilbur Ross, you may recall, violated an ethics agreement by improperly reporting his stock holdings and faced scrutiny for his financial dealings. Man, talk about, rookie time. All right, the adults are coming in now. The super wealthiest, I'm going to say, and this is subjective, I understand there's bias in this, the most unethical people you can imagine are coming into positions that are going to affect you, the elderly, your children, people who are high risk, people who have health issues, people who are maybe legal immigrants. I mean, the first piece of legislation the Republican Congress wants to tackle, the first piece of legislation, most important to them, meaningful legislation, is going after people who are transgender. First thing they want to focus on. And they didn't hide it. There was complete transparency during the election cycle. They were very upfront. All you had to do was wake the F up and pay attention to what their intentions were. They're just doing what they said they were going to do. Trump himself has not promised to divest from any of his business. Why the hell would he? Seriously, why should he? Why should he? Ivanka and Jared, they made billions. Chump change to what we can picture, we can clearly picture is going to happen next. Okay, Trump stacking his White House roster with uber rich backers. These are people who supported him. These are people, the richest by far, Elon Musk. I said, any daily kind of assessment of his wealth, 346 to 360 something billion. Why scribble over a spare billion or two? By far, the wealthiest. A third of $1 trillion, consolidated, one individual. But go look at Jared Isaacman and Howard Lutnick and Kelly Loeffler and Stephen Feinberg and Warren Stevens and Linda McMahon and Scott Bessent and Dr. Mehmet Oz. Holy crap. We're in for something, folks. Mehmet Oz is going to lead Medicare and Medicaid. Elections have consequences. They really do. His first administration, Trump's first administration, was chock full of super rich figures whose combined wealth, again, was about $6 billion, marking an unprecedented marriage of money and executive power. His second term is going to make that look like chump change, for sure. It already has. You're talking about the 12 or 13 folks who are in positions of significant power and influence. And it goes well beyond Elon Musk and SpaceX and Tesla fame. Vivek Ramaswamy, I said before, he was an entrepreneur first and then a former presidential candidate. He's working with Musk on this Department of Government Efficiency. He's worth $1 billion. The nonprofit organization Americans for Tax Fairness last month estimated that the average net worth among Trump, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, and the top appointees is $616 million. The average net worth, each individual on average, $616 million. Biden's total net worth of his administration, of his cabinet, was $118 million. Where is this going to lead in terms of impact on the average American citizen and family? Do you really think that these individuals have your best interests at heart? Really? For sure? I'm not going to go into the rest of them. We just don't have the time. But this is the point. I mean, Trump is turning the Department of Defense. Okay, let's talk about the Department of Defense. You know, you need me on that wall. I'm the last bastion of protection for Americans, for American society. The Department of Defense is that government entity that's responsible for protecting America's interests, domestically and abroad. Trump is turning the Department of Defense over to his special interest billionaire backers. Yeah, again, I understand that this is coming from Democrats.org, but there's truth. So in response to Donald Trump selecting billionaire donor Stephen Feinberg to serve as Deputy Secretary of Defense, Democratic National Convention Rapid Response Director Alex Floyd released the following statement. So this is Alex Floyd from the DNC in response to Stephen Feinberg selected to serve as Deputy Secretary of Defense, excuse me. Donald Trump is turning the Pentagon over to another billionaire with defense contractor ties in the latest example of him stacking his administration with out-of-touch donors looking out for themselves, not the American people. Our service members deserve a defense department focused on national security and American safety, but all Trump cares about is rewarding billionaire loyalists who will do his bidding. This is truth. This is truth. There's no other way to try and spin this. It's just not. Washington, from the Washington Post. President-elect Donald Trump offered billionaire investor Stephen Feinberg the job of Deputy Defense Secretary, said people familiar with the matter, a decision that could elevate a longtime political supporter of Donald Trump with investments in defense companies that maintain lucrative Pentagon contracts. Feinberg is the co-CEO of Cerberus Capital Management, which is invested in hypersonic missiles and which previously owned the private military contractor DynCorp. DynCorp was acquired by another defense firm, Amentum, back in 2020. Critics on the left have raised concern that elevating a billionaire financier to the highest rungs of the Pentagon could pose conflicts of interest stemming from his defense investments. I'm not going to go any deeper because this is clear. This is clear where this is now going. There's no break. We had that option. That's gone. So the question is, how is this going to impact America? That's the question. Not if, but how. The billionaires Trump's picked for next administration: Elon Musk, Tillman Fertitta, and more. Again, I don't have the bandwidth, the time, or even, honestly, the inclination to do a deep dive into each administration cabinet selection. But, I mean, it starts with Elon Musk. But I do want to mention Tillman Fertitta a little bit, the owner of the Houston Rockets and Landry's Restaurant, an entertainment company. Fertitta is Trump's pick for ambassador to Italy. Here, I understand you give ambassadorships out to people who helped your campaign. That is not new to Donald J. Trump. It's been time immemorial, part of the recent history of American national politics. But it's the other folks. It's the other folks, like the Stephen Feinbergs and the Vivek Ramaswamy And Linda McMahon, wife of Jim McMahon and former CEO of World Wrestling Entertainment, is Trump's pick for education secretary pending Senate approval. This is going to be so damaging. We've had education secretaries who have already further damaged America's position in the worldwide education system rankings. At a time when America cannot handle falling back even farther in terms of education abilities on the global scale, we will. It's not even a question of if. The question is to what degree. We're going to see it in math and science scores going down, in terms of education, in terms of education services, not just in pre-K and kindergarten, through middle school, through high schools, through higher education. I've taught in 10 colleges and universities. I've seen how damaged educational institutions are now. This is going to get really scary. Jared Isaacman, tapped by Trump as the administrator of NASA. Isaacman is the founder and CEO of the Pennsylvania-based processing firm Shift4 Payments, who founded the defense firm Draken International in 2011 and sold it to Blackstone in 2019 for a reported 9-figure sum. Forbes valuation, $1.8 billion. Jared Isaacman, welcome to the party, pal. Howard Lutnick, co-chair of Trump's transition team. Cantor Fitzgerald, you may have heard of them. Cantor Fitzgerald, CEO, is Trump's pick for Commerce Secretary, which also requires Senate approval, and is well known for rebuilding the financial services firm where he spent his entire career, and the company lost 658 employees in 9/11 World Trade Center attack. Forbes valuation of Howard Lutnick, $1.5 billion. Last I'm going to do, last on the hit parade, Kelly Loeffler. If you don't know these people, the onus and responsibility is on you to spend 2 seconds out of Candy Crush or pulling out of Instagram to do a little bit of a search on Wikipedia. Kelly Loeffler, the former Georgia GOP senator chosen by Trump to lead the Small Business Administration, is married to billionaire Intercontinental Exchange founder Jeff Sprecher, worth an estimated $1.1 billion. Kelly Loeffler. So these are, again, the people who are coming in, and Trump has tapped these people as payback for their loyalty and also because they help fund his campaign. This is it. These are the people who are going to be the tip of the sword to implement Project 2025. And who's going to suffer? Anybody who's high risk, anybody who is worried about immigration rights, reproductive rights. They're worried about childcare. They're worried about elder care. They're worried about the cost of most goods going up. When you have billionaires running the whole shebang, why do they care at all about you? They have no common understanding of what's going to happen to you. If you thought things were tough because you cared about the price of eggs or the price of a gallon of gasoline under Biden, if that was your focus, God help you. So President-elect Donald Trump has assembled the wealthiest presidential administration in modern history. 13 billionaires are set to take on government posts. They include a wrestling magnate, a private space pioneer, a New York real estate developer, the heir to a small appliance empire, and the wealthiest man on the planet, with several being donors and close personal friends of the incoming president. We always talk, you see on my YouTube channel, I talked about some of the toxicity that's created by nepotism and personal favors being done to people in senior leadership roles in organizations or business owners or founders in terms of adverse negative impact on the workforce. We can extrapolate that impact from a business perspective into a societal perspective. We can see where this is going. It's going there. And the question is, how is that going to impact people? So it's not a surprise that Donald J. Trump surrounds himself with people who come from the same world that he does, said Jordan Leibovitz, Vice President of Communications for the watchdog group Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. The billionaire class of businessmen is who he is and who he wants to be seen as and who he wants to be seen with. The wealth of Trump's current cabinet rivals only his first term back in 2016. They had a combined net worth of $3.2 billion and dwarfs the $118 million combined net worth of Biden's cabinet. During Trump's first term as Secretary of Education, I was talking before about education. Betsy DeVos, a name that will live in infamy, boasted the highest net worth, with Forbes estimating her net worth to be roughly $2 billion. In contrast, the wealthiest official in the Biden administration is White House Chief of Staff Jeff Zients, whose disclosures from 2021 showed his net worth about $90 million and $443 million, versus Betsy DeVos' $2 billion valuation. The scales of this are just insane. So, wrapping up today's video, you may feel that there's a significant alarm that, based on your own perspective, you may feel this video is warranted or not justified. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Please share them, be civil, but if you can post comments, I promise I'll respond to everything. If you like the video, please like it, just in terms of the kind of exposure that I'm attempting to give on my YouTube channel, to shine a light on organizations, businesses, politics, things that are happening in the realm of American and international scope that is ethical behavior or lacking in moral clarity. So please, if you feel like I'm doing good work here, please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It helps support what I'm doing and gets the message out to a broader audience. Thank you so much for coming in, checking out this video, and please let me know what you think. I really, really will respond to every comment. Thank you.